Good afternoon. Welcome. I'm very pleased to see you here. Thank you so much for those of you who are signing online and also for those of you who are going to watch the broadcast after. My name is Cindy Wisty. I'm part of the Early Instructional Solutions team that helps with this page. And our goal is to help educators, we like to say in real life and electronically. That's why we call ourselves EARLe. And so today I'm going to be spending some time with you on numberless word problems. And what had me come to this is I have spent 25 years in education, and I'm currently working with a 7th grade classroom. I teach 7th grade math, and just like all educators, I'm really wanting to be certain that students are engaged and excited about math, and most importantly, I'm trying to conquer those fears for mathematics. And so that has me right now using numberless word problem structures. If you've just joined, thank you. I'm glad that you're here. Go ahead and drop a greeting into the chat and you can tell us where you're watching from. We're excited to have you. As I said, my name is Cindy and I'm a member of the Early Instructional Solutions team, and we're wanting to be certain that we are supporting educators. We like to say educating in COVID and beyond, because we certainly know very challenging comments. Go ahead and drop a greeting into the comments and let us know where you're watching from. And if you see, if there's someone you believe that should be watching this live, then go ahead and tag them in the comments as well. Illinois, thank you so much for joining us. I think it's Nadia. We're thrilled to have you. I think you're going to enjoy this chat. I'm going to go ahead. I am leading this through Zoom, so you'll see me share my screen. And when I've finished, I'm going to go ahead and be certain that I have the notes available for you as well. We're going to put that in the file section of our notebook, of our page, of our notebook. You can hear me talking just like when I'm in the classroom. So just wanted to head over. As I mentioned, my name is Cindy Wisty. I have been in education for 25 years, and we'll be thinking about active discussion and higher order thinking through numberless word. And for our sequence, I want to get us started with credits, the definition of what are numberless word problems. We'll be hearing from you as you're sharing as well, because perhaps you've worked with numberless word problems. We'll look at examples, and then we'll take a question and answer, and then we will come to opportunities as well. So let's start with credits. Some of you are familiar with the work of Brian Burchard from Texas. He has a blog that specifically addresses numberless word problems, and he does a fantastic job doing that. I'll be certain that his information is included for you in the notes that will go into the file section. And then, of course, certainly just citing the late author Van de Waal, who has done work for us in mathematical tasks, and his book, The Elementary and Middle School Mathematics. So we're going to get into the heart of my vision for you is that you're attending a little session here that by the time you leave, it's going to help you think about how might I be able to use numberless word problems to increase student engagement. So I do know that we have a couple of people on. Why don't you drop something into the chat that talks about what are you trying to do right now to help foster student engagement, because we know that is so tricky. And I'll watch for the chat from time to time. Welcome, we're glad you're here. Thank you so much for attending. We're just getting ready to define numberless word problems, and we are also talking about what you guys might be doing to help foster student engagement right now, because we certainly know that that is tricky. I was sharing that what has had me come to want to share this presentation is I'm using this in my own classroom, and I just want to share out something that is showing to be effective in student interest and participation with the mathematics. All right, a numberless word problem, as I'm going to define it, is a word problem that is structured by the teacher to tease out a concept and to dispel misunderstandings. And importantly, the numbers are slowly revealed through strategic layering. So that will be an important piece for us. So the background for numberless word problems, well, we'll give you the 5 W's and the H for how. So who is it suitable for? What's exciting about numberless word problems is they are suitable for preschool through college. What are they? Well, it's that type of mathematical problem where I don't immediately reveal the numbers so that I'm getting students into the structure of the problem. It's effective to use it during launch and guided practice. And where can I use them? Well, in real life and with electronic instruction. And it works in both. I was just amazed the other day at the level of thinking and engagement that occurred with my students in using a numberless word problem structure. I would recommend when you kick off content or when you sum up. Nadia says that she teaches English learners K-5. Nadia, this is really good structure for English learners because they're focused on the structure of the language and conceptually what's happening with the problem. And then why are these effective? Well, they build confidence, community, and clarity. And so the bulk of our chat today is going to be on the facilitation. How does the teacher offer questions and connections to the equation and other represent? Scroll down here and look at my comments for. All right. So we're going to just start with a very quick, simple example. And so that example is, Cindy has some pet fish. Her mom gave her 3 more fish. She now has 8 fish. How many fish did Cindy have in the beginning? Well, as you think about that problem, what's going to happen, educators, is I'm going to take the entire problem. I'm going to think about that first, and then I'm going to start to break it apart into those layers. Now, a critical attribute that you see in yellow on the bottom right is you always want to talk about the general scenario, and that may cause you to add some sentence structure. So it may not be something I can just cut and paste electronically or on paper. I may have to think and add a sentence. In this case, this was the classic, Cindy had some fish. Her mom gave her some more, but I really wanted to hone in on Cindy had some pet fish to get started. So you may have to add that sentence structure. So in this quick example, here's how it would play out in the classroom. In the classroom, I'm going to put a launch slide that activates a visual. And so what would activate this problem is a picture of a fish, and I can say to the students, what is this that you have in front of you? Oh, it's a fish. And start to launch their interest before the problem is revealed, because I'm wanting them to generate that language associated with the math. Then this slide comes up. Cindy had some pet fish. Her mom gave her some more fish. Then I layer in. Her mom gave her 3 fish. Cindy now has 8 fish. How many fish did Cindy have in the beginning? Now, educators, as I'm revealing it, what I'm going to do is pause, and in the beginning, I may ask the students, I may directly tell them, can you go ahead and draw what you think might be Cindy's fish? Or could you draw Cindy looking in her fish bowl? Could you draw Cindy's mom giving her more fish? We don't know how many just yet. So they start to create these storyboard panels that are associated with their math problem. I want to encourage you, if you have questions as they come up, just feel free to go ahead and drop them into the comments. So this is your structure, and I wanted to be sure and leave this with you in the notes. You're going to design your problem, then chunk it, then draw it, share it, and connect. Design, chunk, draw, share, and connect. That causes the students to have that problem set, the visual, and the mathematics application. When I design it, I'm going to have the entire word problem that I'm working with, then chunking it into those layers. In the beginning, it is wise to direct the students to draw. Sometimes you'll see videos where we don't do that. I think it's a wise way when I'm very first introducing them. Then we have students share out their various representations.
Better at that.
And we ask them to connect. How does their picture demonstrate the number sentence or the equation? And we have them share with each other. So this would be an example in a middle school problem, and the original given problem was that there is a ratio of 8 to 1 for orange concentrate to water. And then how would you scale that from 4 people to, and so I'm waiting for it to come up on the screen here. There, I see it. And so students, you'll see a little bit later when I get to some middle school content, students will draw that, then they will start to talk to each other about how they chose to represent that mathematics. Did you guys drop something into the chat? When you were having students make connections between their, I would say their equations and their representations or their pictures, what are some teacher cues that you give them to help them be engaged in the content? And I'll watch. While you're doing that, I'm going to show you another example. And what you'll see is these start to come into the problem types, right? We had one where we had start unknown. Of course, I can start much more simply than that. So here's one. And again, why I like this is it builds up reading ability and also the structure of the mathematics. You'll see I'm going to start with the full problem in the background of the teacher's mind. There were some worms on the sidewalk and some worms in the soil. 10 worms were in the soil. 2 worms were on the sidewalk. How many worms were there all together? How many more worms in the soil than on the sidewalk? So this one's kind of quirky because it has an ick factor to it. And so I've got my visual to activate. I have not posted the full question. And then I begin my slow reveal. There were some worms on the sidewalk and some worms in the soil. Now, what you'll see on the next screen as it's coming up, you see me highlighting in yellow these layered pieces. That highlighting can be a wise thing to do. And in the beginning, you may start doing that, and eventually there's no highlighting because I'm not adding that scaffold. But as these layers are coming in right now, I'm going ahead and dropping that in. So I have my original given structure, and then I say 10 worms were in the soil. And I may direct them. Can you draw 10 worms in soil? 2 worms were on the sidewalk. Ick. Can you draw the 2 worms that are on the sidewalk? How many worms were there all together? And I may ask students, what are you going to do to get those worms all together so that you can count them? And maybe I'm listening for that they're anchoring, they've got that 10 and more, right? I'm wanting to hear how they're talking about that language. What you'll see, educators in orange, is this extension that I can also have planned in the background. How many more worms were in the soil than on the sidewalk? And how can... So another example when you're working through problem types starts to be this example of balloon bouquets. So this would be grouping, and many of you are familiar with the cognitively guided instruction in math coming through these problem types, right? So the reveal part of this problem says a clown is blowing up balloons for a party. She is going to make balloon bouquets. Now the first piece, and again I'm scaffolding in yellow, the clown has a large group of 42 balloons. Hopefully it gets to a point where I'm not asking them every time, now you draw that, now you draw that. I want them to think and mentally picture, and I might now start to say, can you represent the mathematics, right? So elevating the language, wanting them to draw a clown with a large group of 42 balloons, and eventually they're learning, don't draw all 42 balloons, get a representation going. She's going to use 7 balloons in each bouquet. How many balloon bouquets can she make from her large group of balloons? So again, why this starts to be so powerful is I'm activating the language and the thinking. There's no stress. What's really powerful with my 7th graders, hey, we don't have to stress. There's not even any numbers here yet, guys. Let's just start to think about what we're doing. And then coming through and building each chunk so that students are able to systemically think. I did want to share with you here, it's powerful to pull the mathematics, especially for numberless word problems, coming from current events. And I'm going to pause and ask you, if you've just joined, if you'll drop into the comments where you're watching from. Welcome. And also, I want to ask you if you have used any current events in your mathematics. How are you doing that? And I'll check and watch for comments. And back over. So this is called Doggo News. And it has, I would say primary, but intermediate and even some of the older grades. This one has fun facts about Thanksgiving. Also has facts about the panda that was just born at the Smithsonian's National Zoo, right? So there are some things that I could be able to do with that panda and his weight. And actually, some of the things that seem for younger, being able to share with students, like calculating what his birth date actually was, if he is now 12 weeks old, how many days has he been alive, those types of things with those mathematical problem types. That's good. So you will see in some of these examples that I am using that as a thinking platform. And so here is one, and this starts to be a little bit older grade level. This is as they're working with reading larger numbers and understanding those numbers in context. So I start with my launch visual, which is a Macy's Day Parade example. And I just talk about during Thanksgiving, historically they've had Macy's Day Parade. It was originally started to help promote Macy's, and then it was such a hit that it stayed. And interesting, what's happening? How has COVID impacted that? And so the article that's on that site for Kids News talks about that. And then here starts to be my numberless word problem. Historically, the Macy's Day Parade attracts viewers in person and on TV. So that's my overall general statement, and you'll see, teachers, that there is there's not going to be the yellow scaffolding this time. And the second layer of more complexity is there's going to be a detracting number, like an irrelevant number that's falling into the problem. An estimated 3.5 million people attend in person, typically around the 2.5-mile route across. Another estimated 50 million watch on TV. How many estimated spectators watch the Macy's Day Parade in total? So now coming to incorporating that decimal value and also the larger order, the larger numbers related to that current event. Again, I'm not doing that yellow scaffolding this time, and the red was for us to just see that I've got kind of that red herring in there for that irrelevant number piece for solving the problem. How many more people watch on TV than in person, so I can continue to layer these new where I'm stopping and posing the questions? And what is the multiplicative comparison of TV watchers to watchers in person? The reason I've included this one is I could take what seems to be a fairly simple and straightforward problem. This now starts to be more appropriate 4th and 5th grade, but really even towards 6th grade, where I'm thinking about what's happening multiplicatively, not in absolute terms, but really, can you find a multiplier that shows the relationship between the 3.5 million and the 50 million? So again, these have a lot of room for layering and all right. So we're coming back to that middle school example, and this is Justice made some orange juice with very orangey flavor using water and concentrate. And you'll see I've got the activating visual, and now I just start layering in and revealing each one of the relevant numbers associated with the problem. So just picture in your mind, can you actually represent that they're making an orange drink? Go ahead and do that. The ratio was 8 to 1. I would have them represent that. And it serves 4 people. Now they're going to make a new batch. So once they've drawn that representation, make a new batch, keeping the flavor the same ratios as in the original. So again, I've included this for you in your notes. The setup of design, chunk, draw, share, and connect. And just as a reminder, because some of you, as you watch the replay, may choose that you're wanting to help support these infographics on what is the structure of setting up a numberless word problem can be really helpful. Yeah, absolutely. The small chunking of the problem is what is so important. And again, it takes away that fear of the mathematics. Like, let's just relax and look piece by piece at what actually is happening. All right. So now this starts to be a little bit more exciting when we're thinking, I mean, for all of us, for all of our grade levels, it's exciting. I was just, as I've shared with you, excited in regards to 7th grade where kids were just electrified, right? I put up this visual and we just start something. We have a strategy called, even if it's wrong, how might you do it? And that has been transformative, especially in the virtual environment where kids are going ahead and taking risks. And they're getting more and more careful about their thinking, but they know that they're in a safe environment. And in a 7th grade virtual room, that's saying a lot. And I'm sure that you are challenged with that as well. In fact, you may decide to go ahead and share with me how you've been challenged with trying to get students to take risks mathematically. So we put up this complex shape. In 7th grade, they have to deconstruct the complex shape. And the posed question was, how would you find, no numbers yet at all, how would you find the area of this shape? What would be your approach? Allowing for think time. And then I started charting the mathematics. So it's not so direct that they have a word problem that's being layered in. I've posed a question and I'm layering their responses and charting their responses as they're coming through. And then they were excited when they got the area of that as we layered in that each one of the unit boxes was 1 square unit. And they had to come back and leverage. How does that then tell me what the diameter of those circles are? How does that then tell me what the area of the circle would be? So there's quite a few steps as they're deconstructing that. And then we went to this shape, which was even more complex. So you can hear in the numberless word problems, there's a commitment to start really basic and get more and more complex as we're working. I'm ready. We are ready for question and answer. And so I'm going to watch the chat just a little bit. I appreciate those of you who have joined us, and I know that on the rebroadcast as well, people are going to be able to ask some questions. So what questions might you have in regards to using numberless word problems? Well, I'm not seeing any questions just yet, but you'll have an opportunity on the rebroadcast as well to drop, and we can talk about some ways to effectively get this started. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to be sure that you have the resources that I cited, and you can go there and they have sample, appropriate for your grade level, sample problems that will help you do the numberless word problem. I do want to offer you some pro tips and thoughts, because if you Google numberless word problems and you start to look at YouTube videos, there are quite a few different representations. And what I really recommend that you do is generate that full problem first. And as you generate it, let's say in a slide deck, you're going to generate the problem, make multiple copies of the slide deck so that you very quickly can create that reveal. That will help you in just a few minutes get that whole problem set ready. So if we come back to our worm, because part of what we want to be sure at Early Instructional Solutions and Educating COVID and Beyond, we want to help get some streamlined prep things. We're very big on that. And so I have the entire problem here that I prepared. And what I want to do is immediately make multiple copies of that and then come back and delete the parts that aren't going to be provided. So that's one of the pro tips. Then we'll come down. And another pro tip that I wanted to offer you is, so I have seen this in videos and even in direct classroom instruction, where a teacher is revealing for their numberless word problem, and they'll say, Cindy has some fish. How many fish do you think Cindy has? And that's a valid question. That's activating for the mathematics. but you'll hear students start to just chant out a bunch of different numbers. The teacher has to be really careful on harnessing that conversation and being certain that it's tight, because I don't want so much random information that we're not drilling down to the mathematical thinking. So you want it open and organic, but you don't want so much of that that you can't get to the streamline. So that's kind of what this visual represents, where, you know, he's running, he's kind of coming. I have inquiry, of course, but I'm still driving pretty directly towards my final answer. As I said, I'm going to be sure that you have resources. You can find us on this page, Educating in and Beyond COVID, also on the Early Instructional Solutions page on our website, which is earlyed.com, and my contact information is there as well. I'm going to stay on for a couple of moments just to see if any questions are coming in or any comments. Again, thank you so much for dropping by. All right, I am not seeing any further questions or comments. As I always like to say, kiss your brain. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by. We stand firmly with you on this page in being strong as you're working and educating in and beyond COVID. Take care. Bye-bye.